This is the JLPT Bootcamp podcast with your host, Mac. This is episode 99. This is a special cultural episode. In this episode, I'm going to go over some kind of a cultural insight from my experience of living here for 7 or 8 years. And so usually, if this is your first time listening to the podcast, I do one of these cultural episodes. Then the next episode, I go over my current game plan, what I'm doing to study to pass the N1 exam here in December. But this one is going to be about culture. And this particular episode is going to be about some Japanese food that is very near and dear to my heart. But first, when I mention the word Japanese food, the first thing that probably pops into your mind is sushi. Or it might be tofu, or possibly tempura, or udon, or miso. Those are kind of your typical Japanese dishes that have managed to make it abroad outside of the country at Japanese restaurants. But you don't often hear about a dish that's actually quite famous here in Osaka, and that is okonomiyaki. And okonomiyaki, it's kind of hard to describe if you haven't seen it, but a lot of people describe it as Japanese pizza, and I don't really like that definition so much because it doesn't really capture what it is. I prefer the literal translation of stuff I like fried. Okonomi is my preference, so to speak. That's kind of the literal translation. Yaki is fried, something fried. So there's a lot of different fries, like tamagoyaki is fried egg. There's takoyaki, which is kind of fried octopus. It's not exactly fried octopus. It has some batter around it, but yaki means basically fried. So the literal translation would be stuff I like fried. And the way you make this is it's made with flour, eggs, shredded cabbage, which kind of sounds a little disgusting, but is actually really good if you fry it up. Plus whatever your favorite ingredient is. And I guess that's where the okonomi kind of comes in. You can put almost literally anything you want in these okonomiyaki pancakes, so to speak. For example, a really popular dish is with seafood, or also with just pork. There's another dish that I've seen with kimchi, which is, if you're not familiar, it's a Korean pickled cabbage, kind of a spicy cabbage that that's very popular in Japan and obviously very popular in Korea. I've also seen okonomiyaki with mochi and cheese. Mochi is pounded rice cake. Basically, it's a soft kind of, it's almost like cheese, but it doesn't really have a taste. It has kind of a rice taste. You usually eat it with something else. It has that kind of creamy, chewy kind of texture to it. And I've seen a lot of okonomiyaki made with that. And so to make Osaka-style okonomiyaki, you just need to mix all the ingredients together and put it on a hot plate. It's one of the easiest things to make. You just measure out everything, you mix it all together in a big bowl, and then you slap it on the hot plate. Then, once it's cooked on one side, the pancake is later flipped and generously slathered with okonomiyaki sauce, which is a type of thick sauce like Worcester sauce. It's kind of hard to describe, but it's basically a cross between barbecue sauce and Worcester sauce. Not quite as sweet as barbecue sauce, but it's as thick as barbecue sauce and kind of has the flavor of Worcester sauce. If I could, I hope that's an adequate description. And then, of course, lots of mayonnaise. And there's some other things that people put on top of okonomiyaki. It depends on the restaurant that you're at or where you are. Different regions have different varieties, but a lot of times people will add nori, which is seaweed flakes. There's also bonito flakes, which are fish flakes. I prefer to call them dancing fish flakes, because when you put them on the okonomiyaki, they kind of dance as they're being heated, and kind of cooked onto the okonomiyaki. And tons of people add different things. Different restaurants have their own unique special sauce to put on there to top it all off. And at some restaurants, you even get to cook the okonomiyaki yourself on a hot plate in front of you. This is probably this is almost absolute genius model of a restaurant model, because they don't have to cook anything, they don't have to do anything, they just put a bowl of ingredients together and just, hand it to you at the table, and you get to cook it yourself. And it's a lot of fun, a fairly cheap way to eat, and it's a lot of fun to put it on there and try to flip it over without breaking it up, because these things are huge. They're about a plate sized. So to flip it over and have it still intact and everything, it's kind of a fun little family thing, or something to do with your friends or whatnot. There are some restaurants like Fugetsu here in Osaka that will cook it for you right in front of you and don't allow you to do anything, which is not very fun. But you still get to enjoy the fresh okonomiyaki right in front of you. So that's Osaka-style. There's another version of Osaka-style that uses soba that's called modanyaki. And some people think it's from modern yaki, but no one's quite sure, like modern, like new okonomiyaki. And I should say that the soba that's used inside a modanyaki is not the regular soba that you're used to, the buckwheat noodles. Buckwheat noodles are they have their own unique taste, and they fall apart very easily, so you can't really fry them. So there's a special kind of soba that's not really soba, I guess, that's made out of wheat flour, and this is the same kind of soba that's used for yakisoba and for this modanyaki. And it actually isn't really like regular soba at all, except for it's the same size and general shape, so to speak. It's not very thick. It's kind of spaghetti looking soba, so it's a little difficult to understand at first if you're not familiar with the two different styles of soba. But in addition to Osaka-style okonomiyaki, there's also Hiroshima-style okonomiyaki, and this can sometimes cause debates between people, like which one's better, Hiroshima-style or Osaka-style. Generally across the country, Osaka-style is the most popular, just because it's very easy to make. Basically, Osaka-style is you mix it all up, you throw it on the hot plate. Whereas Hiroshima-style is everything is stacked. So what happens is they have a batter that they pour onto the hot plate, and that creates a crepe. And then on top of that, they layer the cabbage, and then I think the ingredients in there, and I think they crack the egg on top of the cabbage, and mix the egg in with the cabbage to cook it through, and then they put another layer on top. So it's kind of a layered kind of okonomiyaki. It's not all mixed together, so to speak. They basically, to be honest, they taste pretty much the same. It's just a question of which one's easier to eat than the other one and make. And okonomiyaki is so popular in Hiroshima, actually, that they have a food theme park called Okonomiyaki Mura. And this is like a 5-story building in the middle of the city that has 26 different restaurants, and they're all serving different kinds of okonomiyaki, using different ingredients and different kinds of styles. I've been there once. It was interesting. If you're ever in Hiroshima, I recommend checking it out for dinner. Very interesting place. It's just non-stop okonomiyaki restaurants everywhere. Of course, not to be outdone, Osaka's Ebisu Bridge in the heart of Dotonbori. This is the main bridge that you can see Griko Man from, so to speak. in the middle of Dotonbori, which is the downtown dining district of Osaka. That bridge is lined with spatulas, like the ones used to flip okonomiyaki. It's part of the railing. There's huge, probably 3 foot high or about a 1 meter high railing, and it's all just big spatulas. So really interesting. If you're in Osaka, be sure to check out Namba. Lots of good restaurants there, and lots of good stuff to eat and see. So that's it for okonomiyaki. How about you? I'd like to know, have you tried okonomiyaki before? What was your impression of it? Did you like it? What kind of okonomiyaki did you get? And if you're outside of Japan, have you seen okonomiyaki in the wild at a Japanese restaurant? I know there's a few restaurants in some big cities here and there outside of Japan, but not a very common Japanese food that's outside of Japan here. So I'd like to hear from you. This is episode 99. Please come by the website at jlptbootcamp.com and check out this podcast. Leave me a lovely comment there. Or, of course, while you're there, you can click on the Contact Me button up at the top on the menu bar there and send me an email that way. Or if you like old-fashioned things, you can email me, mac@jlptbootcamp.com. I'd love to hear from you in any of those 3 ways about future topics or questions you have about the test, the JLPT, or whatnot. I always love to hear comments and suggestions and things like that. So let me know your thoughts. And this is it for this week.